This is a huge canvas. It's a 28 by 20 inch, and it's got one of those nasty, horrible stretcher bars in the middle, which I don't personally like. But I picked this up. It's going fairly cheap, this canvas, so why not paint on it? What I've done is I've taken a little bit of golden acrylic paint, just a bit of burnt sienna and orange and a little bit of white, mixed it all up, ploughed it all on, and as it was drying, I sketched in what I want to paint today. Oh, this is the palette we're going to be using today. They're just Winsor & Newton's paints, which I find quite useful for this style of painting, but use any paints that you're familiar with. We've got chrome yellow there. Moving on, we have got raw sienna, this mustardy colour there, yellow ochre, sap green. Run around here we have got burnt sienna, ivory black, burnt umber, titanium white, bit of bright red, okay, just there, Prussian blue, and this is a colour that I've never really even painted before. It's phthalo deep green, but when you mix it out, it looks a bit blue, so we've got to work with that. I've also mixed up a little bit of purple for shadows there, and jump across the air. I don't know if you can see that. We've got a little bit of stonework that we're just playing with, and a lot more white for the sky up there. So, titanium white and linseed oil. I'm going to coat the whole of the sky. And can you see what I mean by that horrible stretcher bar? We're just going to have to really work that. I'm going to go over the top of the mountains. We're not really committed at this stage because we can just paint over anything we don't like in the sketch form. But the idea of toning the canvas beforehand, it gives us a good idea of where we've painted, especially if we're using a light colour like white. And also when, obviously, we put white on the canvas, we know if it is white, we have actually painted it on and not just left a bit of that blank canvas showing through. Okay, so once I've got all this coated, we'll come back with a little bit of colour. Let's hit the sky now. That might be a little too blue for me for this composition, so we'll just put it on very sparsely and see what it looks like from far away. Hold the brush right at the end and just give it a little bit of a twizzle and a bit of turn. Okay, I don't like it's too blue, got a bit too much blue in there, so I'm going to grab a bit of brown, okay, and just hit that there as well. Make a mess, make a big mess. We're going to put some nasty big clouds in here, so I want a bit of colour first before we put a little bit of cloudy work on. Just scrub that in. There we go. And we're just going to tease all this together now, taking a lot of care around that stretcher bar, which is right in the middle. And I'm just going to blend these colours. You can see I've hit a bit of the black in there as well, a bit of the ivory black. And I'm just going to grey this sky off. I want it a moody sky, a moody sky. So with this all blended out, a little bit of the burnt umber and white, and I'm just going to put in some loose cloud shapes, maybe a bit more of the burnt umber and white, and just smush these in. Very dramatic sky. Don't have to be finesse here. We don't want anything that looks regular. So just smoosh, mush, push in. Anyone could do this, can't they? You know, just push that in. Okay, grab a little bit of that purple I showed you. That's just Prussian blue and red. And a touch of white thrown in there. And just carve out some bottoms of some of these clouds. Just throw them in. Again, irregular and random. In fact, doesn't look irregular, does it? But we can work that with a blender and just keep going backwards and forwards till you get the sky that you want. If you want a big blue sky, just paint a big blue sky. And if you want a massive emotion-full sky, here we go for it. Here we go. Now let's work on some of this moorland. Okay, so I've taken greens, browns, a little bit of blue and a little bit of white as well, and I've made a very pale greeny kind of colour, and I'm just going to scrub in a moorland hill. This is going to be a base colour, and it wants to be paler than the hills that are in there. Obviously it gets darker as it gets towards us, but we want a nice moorland there, so we can just scrub all this in. Look, a bit of that dark cloud colours coming off there. Just scrub it all in, just give us a base to work with. And every time you reload the brush, grab a little bit of a different colour. I'm going to float some of this sky over the top of this moorland. It's looking a little bit too dark at the moment, so get rid of any excess paint off the brush. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of whatever dirty grey we've got on there, and we're just going to put this in round about there, a little bit of a misty area. Okay, this next layer of hills will be a lot darker, but we want some mist, and we also want to roll some in. Once we've blended this out, blend it up into the hill. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Just get it all on first. One thing that helps is if you distort the top of these far away hills. Just blend them, not too much, but just tease them into the sky. Take your time at this. You just want to fuzz the edge up so you can't really make it out, because you know it's there, you can see it's there, but the moistness in the atmosphere is distorting the edge. Don't go massive hard blending on that. I've got a fan brush with a bit of that sky grey colour on, and I'm going to just touch on. I'm just going to bring some of this cloudiness across the hill there, like that, and then back to the blender, and then we're just going to blend that in and see what that looks like. So let's start up at the top and we'll come down. Okay, and this is just the same colour, it's just got a bit of a darker greeny tone to it, and we're going to push that in. Okay, just really push it around. It comes up there, so it's driving your eye into the middle. This water's going to come round, and something here is going to push your eye up there. So we're going to push that all across. I'll worry about that in a moment, but just remember his castle's going there. So let's grab a bit more colour again. When we hit the palette, we just grab different colours within the same family. Mist or fog, whatever we call it. But I'm just putting that in there. Maybe that creeps right the way up. And we've got all different greens, blacks, browns, blues, all on there. You can see that's where the little bridge is going to be, so we want a bit of something under there as well, because we're going to see through there, like so. And I think now it's about time we got some blendery action going. Really soft brush, just tease and blend up into the hill, blend down into the mist, and eventually we'll have a nice misty landscapey hill, a bit of moorland, a bit of green mountain range. I'm just going to take a bit of this dark colour. Okay, it may look black, but it's not. It's a very, very dark greeny colour. Okay, it has got a bit of Prussian blue, it has got a bit of black in there, but of course as it's coming towards us it wants to get a bit darker. This is where his bridge is going to be, over onto this little mound. Okay, so we'll just push that in. I'll redefine that as we go along. So I'm just going to fill this in, get some colour on there, then at least the canvas is looking covered. What we can do in the water, as if you can see, with various colours, same colours that we've got up in the sky, be it a little bit more blue. I don't know why that happened. I must have picked up blue instead of a dark colour. Let's pick up a bit more dark. And we just side to side strokes. Then what we can do then is hit that with the blender brush and just gently go across the whole thing and blend it all together, but keep them horizontal. Okay, you don't want to go up and down, just keep going side to side till it blends all together and starts to look like Loch Ness. Before I get kind of carried away with all the water and stuff like that, I'm going to put a little bit of colour in here just for the drawbridge, or just a little bit of bridge just there. It's going to be roughly the same colour I'm going to paint the castle in. Some of this same bridgey colour, and I've got a loose sketch up here of the castle itself. It's no particular castle, and it's going to have a little bit of ruins, but I'm putting this sandy kind of colour on there. Go straight over the green as well, mix it in, okay, and don't worry about it, and then just scrub all that in. We'll overdo the foliage down here as well, put maybe a tree or so, something in front of the castle, and we'll just block this in. Obviously we need to work a little bit on perspective. This is very firm, very dry paint. I've already done some details and some windows and things like that on the castle with this liner brush, but we're just going to put a few in. Now there's lots of paint on there, so, and I have got a very shaky hand, so please forgive me. Okay, it's just an illness, don't worry about it. It helps me get very random looking things. okay, especially tree trunks, okay. But there we go, and we're just going to carry that on. Maybe it gets smaller down towards the ground, the arrow slits. We're just going to keep building these up. Maybe put a door in. We'll put a door somewhere there, I think. Little door like that. So a little, because it's a Scottish castle, we're going to put a little bit of a blue flag just there, just waving in the fine wind of the north. Okay, let's work on these rocks. So let's remove this tissue there, and you can see it's kind of matted. The look at all the oil that came off that. Save that. Don't throw that away. Use that to dry your brushes on. Okay, it's left it a kind of a dull matted effect, and that's brilliant because that means it's drier, which means we can paint on it even easier. And I'm going to use the palette knife. Okay, back to the palette knife. You'll use a brush if you want. And I'm just going to take some stony colours. Okay, I'm going to try and tie this up with the same colours that the castle was made in. And I like the palette knife because it does give a bit of an irregular kind of feel as it just gently bounces across. I'm just going to paint one. Okay, just paint one, and then we'll off camera I'll do the other two. I might put a few more in as well. Stepping stones to the castle, yeah. But see, we've got this like very pale, almost a greeny colour. Remember, there'll be algae and all sorts growing on this. Okay, just like that. Wipe the knife, grab a little bit of that same colour but lighter, almost like a sandy colour, and then just go over the top, so like a secondary highlight, just where the light's catching. Okay, and maybe a bit there. Okay, just tease the colours together, maybe like that. Give it some shape. Doesn't want to look like Loch Ness, does it? It doesn't want to be big bumpy things, but that's what it is. Okay, wipe the knife again, and we'll go into a little bit lighter colour. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more of the white into that, and then over the top we go. A little bit of an accent on there. Build it up. Nice thick paint. If you're selling pictures, thick oil paint sells. Trust me, I know that. If it just looks like a photograph as well, nobody's really interested. But if it looks painted and you can actually feel the texture of the canvas and the composition, people go mental for that. There we go, right there. So that's basically one stone highlighted. Let's put a bit of shadow on that. So all I'm getting is a little bit of a blue colour. Okay, so this is just, I'm actually using a touch of the white and a touch of that deep phthalo green, which somehow goes in a bluey colour. Very sparse little bit of highlight, shadow on there. We've got kind of instant rocks jumping off the canvas, a little bit of reflected light maybe. Build it up nice and thick. Now, I think I've made a massive mistake, and I want you to know if you've spotted it. Okay, this massive mistake is that there is blue in the water and there's no blue in the sky. We can't have that. Okay, it's not tropical, so I either grey the water or I put a bit of blue up in the sky, and it only needs to be a touch. Okay, just want to work on some foliage now. I've got a rigger brush or a liner brush, and I've filled it full of different greeny colours, and I'm just going to push on, and I'm going to make all kinds of little leaves of kind of different bushes that live out here, foliage or flowers or something like that. And I'm pushing on, and I don't know if you can see that, but if you push to the side, it'll give a big leaf effect, and then just join another one up to that, and just keep going, and then eventually we'll have a little bush, you know, and you can get some lighter colour, So just a little bit of the cad yellow and just push just on top of that, just there, and mix that in. And of course you want some shadowy colours as well in there, so a little bit of bluey green. So as you can see, most of the foreground is just painted in, though we will be coming back to that. I want some thistles in there, but I've got a lot of green paint on this fan brush, and I'm gonna start off by putting a tree just about there, I think. Now I might paint more than one, and I want to see how just one looks. We want something to balance it all out. Remember, we've got a lot of heavy stuff over here and pretty much nothing there. So a tree with some, and it's going to be a pine tree, being Scotland and all, or the north of England, but more or less Scotland. Of course it's Scotland. We've got the Scottish flag up there, haven't we? So all I'm going to do is just start to wisp out just like this. I hope you can see that. Just pull out with some of this green, and I'm using a mid-tone green because I want it to be darker. I can put some darks on it and I can put some lights on it, but all I'm doing is just pulling out, flicking up, load the brush and do the same thing. And there we go, a bit darker green there. Remember, his highlight will be coming from this side, I think, by the looks of things, so that's where we'll work on. And then we can also paint the trunk in as well. So as you can see, I'm just building up not a polka dot of colour, but definitely a lot of different colours on top of what we already painted in with the fan brush. Just using a script brush, I'm diving into the palette and I'm getting various greens, various blues, blacks, yellows, all the colours that go into foliage, and I'm just going to concentrate on this for a little while. Remember, branches will come out to the front as well as to the side, and we want a lighter side there and a darker side there, but we also want some reflected light as well, so just remember that. I just want to put a thistle right there, the flower of Scotland right there. So we'll put a head of a thistle right there, and I might put a couple more of these on. A little thistle for Scotland. And there we have it, the flower of Scotland right there, the Scottish castle on a Scottish loch, a typical Scottish day. I hope you've enjoyed this painting, and if you have, give it a big thumbs up, give it a comment as well, and subscribe if you've not done so already. And until next time, take care of yourself, stay safe, happy days.